Board of Finance meeting. Quick roll call. I do see all members present. Um, can I hear a motion for the consideration of minutes from the regular meeting dated January 26th of this year?
I'll make a motion for consideration of minutes of the regular meeting on 1/26/26.
All right, can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Any comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Correspondence. Peter, any correspondence that you're aware of?
No correspondence at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Moving along under new business, we have a few bond ordinances, and I think I do see some representatives from Board of Education, Public Works. So can I get a motion? And I guess we'll break these down into A, B, and C segments. We won't do it all in one segment. So can I get a motion on the first ordinance request?
Yep, I'll make a motion for the consideration of an ordinance appropriating $6,050,000 for the design and construction of sanitary sewers and wastewater facilities and authorizing the issuance of $6,050,000 bonds of the city to meet said appropriation and pending the issuance thereof, the making temporary borrowings for such purpose.
Very good. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
And let's open it up for discussion. Is there anybody from the Sewer Commission present that wants to just provide some context around this bond?
Mr. Chair, this is Lindsay King, the wastewater superintendent. Yeah, so backgrounds in wastewater infrastructure. We had a large upgrade in 2008, and actually equipment is at the end of its life or near the end of its life. Projects for equipment upgrades. So some of the stuff that we're looking at is fixing leaking sewer lines throughout the city. We just completed a large study identifying areas, specific defects in pipes that we can go out and then go in and line it or dig and replace or whatever needs to be done. Is another two force mains on that pump station. One of them a project and pipe. A new pipe, and we could again use that second force main. Right now it has close.
Is Mr. King freezing up for anybody else?
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, I was wondering the same. I didn't know if it was me or him.
Yeah.
Sorry, folks. I don't know. You want to just ask some questions?
Well, I have one question, Mr. King. What's the projected timeline as far as these projects? Is this several projects over the course of 12 months, 24 months, or what's the approximate number of projects and timeline associated with them?
And the timeline varies by project.
If you turn off your video, it will increase your bandwidth.
Video? Okay.
There we go.
Yeah, I'm supposed to have very fast internet. Would happen quickly because they're already identified. The West Ave good year plus. And say if we that again it would probably be 2 to 3 years out because of the long lead time for equipment such as generator.
And I assume that a lot of this work is not, has it already been delayed? In other words, are we already at a point where, we've reached the end of the rope with some of these projects and equipment?
For a lot of municipalities, you just increase, the longer you push it out, you increase your risk of something going wrong, and then you end up having situation where you have to rent equipment and set up hoses for a temporary stopgap until then you can fix the problem.
So, am I the only one that's having a hard time with
Yeah,
hearing this?
no,
Okay, so okay, so maybe what we do, 'cause-
Lindsay, I was shutting off the video of some of the participants to see if that would help, but it doesn't seem to be helping.
No.
Lindsay, is there any chance you could disconnect and join by telephone?
and maybe what I'm thinking is maybe we table this particular vote, move on to the next one. This way, Lindsay could try to call back in. Because
Sure
it is,
thing.
it's an important vote.
Let me
It's almost
disconnect and
$6.1 million, so we don't want to just kind of every other word it.
okay, let me work on that. I'll be
Okay,
back.
All right.
thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you. So we're gonna table the consideration for $6,050,000. So under new business, we're gonna table A. We'll move on to B.
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead,
I'll make a
Vic.
motion for the consideration of an ordinance appropriating $990,000 for various public improvements and authorizing the issuance of $990,000 in bonds of the city to meet said appropriation and pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowings for such purpose.
Do I get a second?
I'll second.
All right, we'll open it for discussion. Is Lindsay also responsible for reporting on this, or is there somebody else that would be reporting on vehicles for the Department of Public Works?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I imagine that Director Saley and his team are busy because of the snowstorm and snow cleanup, but I am here along with the Chief of Staff and Mayor Smith, so we'd be happy to answer your questions on this item. Thank you.
Those various vehicles, do we know specifically what types of vehicles?
My understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Mayor Smith or Chief of Staff Mulrennan, I believe that the goal was to purchase 2 garbage trucks.
That's correct, Peter.
Thank you.
Holly, you confirmed that the other day when we went over this agenda, didn't you? I don't know, is she on?
You're on mute.
Sorry. He had a few different trucks that he had. He had front loaders, side loaders. I'm not sure what he ended up landing on, but I know that he wanted 2 trucks is what. So the actual specific ones, if they were garbage trucks, I guess those would be front loaders. I don't know his language, the different kinds of trucks.
And does anybody know offhand the turnaround? I know with fire trucks, the Quinch trucks, I think those are a few years at least. Is that the same relative turnaround for garbage trucks?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I did receive an inquiry from Corey Vina, who is the works at our general garage and helps to place the orders. And I know that he was concerned about starting the process as soon as approval was granted because of the lead time.
And is this a one for one? Would we be retiring 2 existing trucks in the fleet?
That's a good question. I'm not 100% sure. I do know that the trucks are showing signs of aging, wear and tear, and so there is a need. Whether they're the timing of the retirement of other vehicles, I'm not 100% sure of.
Okay.
Hang on. Am I off mute? Yes. Yes.
Yeah, we have you now,
Mute.
Mr.
I'm sorry. First of all, I couldn't get in on my computer, so I'm on my phone and I'm juggling that. They're not necessarily retiring, but they will use some of the older trucks for parts. I'm actually texting Chris to tell him to get on the call to answer some of the questions about the turnaround time and how the old trucks may be used for parts.
Understood. I appreciate that. Thank you for intervening. Does anybody else on the Board of Finance have any additional questions? And I'm wondering if we give Mr. Saley a few minutes to either log in or chime in, if we just table this vote as well.
Scott, I want to make sure I'm not on mute again. Yeah, let's do that. Let me track him down because the questions are fair and he's more in the weeds than we are. I was looking more at the macro level and proud to say this is the smallest bonding request that we've brought before the Board of Finance in 10 years. So I was just more excited about talking about that. So let me get Chris on and see if he can field some of your detailed questions.
And Mr. Mayor, maybe again, just given the situation, and I guess I would defer to maybe Peter. For A and B in this bond ordinance, does it make sense to just try to revisit them or table them for tomorrow's hearing meeting? Just giving the folks in the DPW and Chris a minute to breathe. I mean, I don't, they don't need to be coming off the road or being distracted.
Scott, I think that's a generous offer. Why don't we do that? Make sure that we have a good connection for Lindsay because that was not very effective. And I'll make sure that Chris is on to be able to address any details about the truck.
And maybe if time permits,
if I may interrupt, Mr. Chairman, and feel free to chime in, Mayor Smith. My concern is that this meeting was noticed, and so the bond ordinances are on the agenda and notice for today, Monday, February 23rd. So I do think it would be problematic to push it to the budget hearing, which is a separate notice for tomorrow.
But Peter, it was addressed tonight, so because there wasn't a final vote, doesn't give us the option then to have the final vote tomorrow, even though we did hold the hearing tonight.
I just wonder, it's almost akin to perhaps when you table at a meeting, it has to be put on a future meeting's agenda. And so that's my concern, whether the future meeting, which is tomorrow, has the notice for the bond ordinances.
Well, I'll tell you what, why don't we move on and I will see if we can get both Lindsay and Chris to resolve the issue tonight. And then if we can't, we'll grapple with the ramifications.
Or maybe maybe even better yet is to take the questions for Lindsay, take a few of the questions for Chris, just drop them in an email or text to them and say, hey, look, in the next hour, if you can get back to us, because we're going to be, coming out of recess in the regular schedule, and we could maybe table these for roughly an hour or so, and they don't have to respond in, verbally if it's just a quick answer to some of these questions. I don't know if that would suffice, and that makes everybody feel better.
I'm not sure. Are we saying let's document the questions and have them respond in writing, or should I see if I could probably get Saley on the phone in the next 10 minutes.
Could do that, or tell them no rush. We'll maybe revisit this in roughly an hour when we're done with the Board of Finance hearings. By the look at the finance agenda, we only have about 8 or 9
Yeah.
departments to go. So that should be relatively quick, and that just may give them enough breathing room to get organized if that helps.
So what time do I want to, what would you want to guess?
Say 6:30.
I'll do that. And he may be able to address some of the questions for Lindsay as well.
All right, that sounds great. Appreciate the.
There is a telephone attendee. Is that, or is it Lindsay King?
Lindsay, are you on? And not on mute? I guess not.
Guess not. Okay.
Thank you, Scott. I'll reach out to Saley now.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Appreciate that. Okay, we've tabled A and B. Can I get a motion for under new business?
I'll make a motion.
C, consideration of an ordinance approving $5,940,000.
Yep. I'll make a motion for the consideration of an ordinance appropriating $5,940,000 for various school improvements and authorizing the issuance of $5,940,000 bonds of the city to meet said appropriation and pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowings for such purpose.
Thank you, Lauren. Can I hear a second?
I'll second.
We'll open it up for questions. Any questions or comments? I see several people from the Board of Education here. Would anybody like to make any comments before we have questions? All right, so I have a couple quick questions here. Now, forgive me for not knowing this. Does Foreign have a pool?
Yes. I'm Pat Bradbury. Yes, Foreign has a pool. It's an original pool that was built in 1973.
So is this considered more repairs? Or what's the ultimate plan here?
This is, yes, repairs. What we have to do is the pool is showing its age. It's going to need new lines to fill the pool and return water back to the filter. They're all buried, direct burial underground, and they're beginning to leak. So we need to really put a whole new gutter system in there. But my goal with this was to get an engineer, architect to be able to go through the project to tell us the best course of action to either replace the pool if the city wants to move that way, or repair the pool.
So Mr. Moulton, if I may, we believe that we are in dire straits with the pool, that any day now it could give. So it is a bit of an urgent project for us. And we just, as Mr. Bradbury mentioned, need to bring in the appropriate experts to give us an estimate on what to do with next steps. As opposed to just continuing to repair. This is to bring in some experts to help us determine the most cost-efficient way to approach the pool.
Okay, so this is not necessarily repair just yet. It's more exploratory, more design than anything else, if I'm hearing you.
You'll probably hear from us in a year again with the results of this and with a proposal on how to approach the foreign pool. Like we'll be revisiting this topic with the Board of Education and the city when we get more information.
Is it safe for use or no?
It is safe for use.
It is safe for use, yes.
Okay, thank you.
May I ask, so just out of curiosity, the $330,000 amount seems like a lot for architectural and engineering. Why is the cost so high?
Well, I want to make sure that whatever we have a set of bid documents so we can get an accurate price moving forward what the town should do. We may be heavy on the amount for that, but I want to make sure we have a complete set of documents so we give an accurate number as to, is it going to be so many million to repair it, or do we have to rebuild the pool? And it's going to, we have to find these lines. Everything's direct burial, but I just don't know what the best course of action will be. And I don't know what the city would want to invest.
Are they doing digging?
They may have to do some engineering to make sure that our footings are stable.
Okay.
And the deck, I just want to make sure we have enough money there that we come back with an accurate number and it's correct.
Mr. Ralph, I do believe it'll be an invasive analysis,
Okay.
as you're suggesting is digging. Yeah,
Got it. Thank you.
thank you.
Any other, just since we're on the topic of the pool, anybody else on the board have any questions regarding the, that particular segment of the ordinance? All right. Any other questions regarding other components? I know I'm just curious with the elementary school playgrounds. Is this a similar?
Correct. This is just my replacement plan for all the elementary school playgrounds. One of these is going to be 26 years old. So I have them on a replacement cycle, and I try and get them out there so they're ahead of this. And that's pretty much how we've been doing it.
This is all the playgrounds.
No.
And then this is really similar to the pool, exploratory or more.
No,
Okay, so this is actual.
Yeah, this is actual replacement of 2 playscapes at Pumpkin Delight. And then we'd probably from there go to Meadowside. I have another one to replace there. And then I have a smaller one at Orange Avenue that would be after that. So I have actually 4 on the docket to be replaced. I don't know if I'll get them all with this piece of money, but we'll get them all quoted out.
So $660,000 effectively replaces 4 playscapes.
It should do at least 3, as long as my numbers have been, the market has been going crazy, so it's hard to keep those numbers down, but I should get at least 3 out of those.
Okay. And any other questions from anyone on the committee regarding the playscapes for the elementary schools playgrounds? And I would just, Mr. Bradbury, would you mind just providing a little context around the asbestos? Which properties are we looking at here?
Sure. So on this, I still have remaining floor tile that is we're struggling with at Calf Pen Meadow, Live Oak School, and Harborside Middle School. We have classrooms that are failing, and this is the last piece of it, hopefully, or one of the last pieces of floor tile that I'm trying to get in. We have about 12 classrooms at Calf Pen, another 12 or so at Live Oaks, and another 13 or 14 at Harborside Middle School. And then when we get the design for this project, we'll also have to go after any asbestos in the ceilings of these areas. So we do one containment. So that's what we're trying to do. That's what I'm trying to get done.
Oh, Mr. Chair, through you. Overall, what's the end game with asbestos? I mean, they've been abating asbestos for 25 years.
We've been
where is, what is the end game? What's the target?
the target end game. This will get this last piece, this 2.2 million will get the floor tile, the remaining floor tile done that the kids are on.
Okay.
I don't think there's still going to be pipe fittings and insulation that we have to go after in the ceilings that are still up there, that have not been taken care of. But we can give you an estimate, a ballpark on where that would be, but that's not included in this 2.2 million.
Okay, but then would that be the pipe and the ceilings? Would that be the end of it?
Well, you'll never be done with it because there is waterproofing on the walls in between the block and the brick. There's areas that we'll never get to. But the areas that I'm dealing with on this piece would be the stuff that's exposed in the classrooms on the floor and above the ceiling.
Okay, but so if you're never going to get to it, they're not part of the plan. They're just always going to stay there.
They're going to stay there because they're encapsulated into the wall, and
Yep.
And the only way we would get to touch that is if we did a renovation or ended up taking part of that wall or those walls down.
Okay, so I'm going to come back to this question. When do you think the asbestos abatement will be done for Milford?
I would have to really go through all the reports because they keep testing more material, and I'd have to get back to you on that on when I would think it would be done. But it's going to be something that we're going to continue to look into and go after. But it's
like next 10 years?
I would say if they invest the money into it, but it's a lot of work. There's still a lot there. I'd have to really lay out, and I can do that through the Fuss and O'Neill reports and get those back to you to get a idea on when that would wrap up.
Yeah, at some level. I mean, don't go
I
crazy.
would, absolutely, not a problem.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What's the timeline on this particular abatement project?
I would hope to get. I don't know if we can get it all done this summer, but it's something that I would do in the summertime when the kids are off, because I have to have the school emptied when I do that. So we'd have to be able to schedule it. I would hope to get 2 of them done this summer. I don't think we can get them all done this summer. In a summer. It's an involved process. There's moving involved and notification. So I'd have to see how that goes. But it's a summertime activity. In other words, I can do that when the kids are out of school.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking 30, 40, it's quite a few classrooms.
Correct.
I mean, 1 summer, 2 summers, I don't know. I guess
this would probably be a 2-summer deal, these 3 areas. We just have to be cautious on who gets it, timing, and make sure I can button it all up for the start of school. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions on any of the other?
Through Mr. Chair, I actually have kind of a general question. Sorry, you broke up a little bit there. Through you, Mr. Chair, I just have a general question, and perhaps more appropriately for Dr. Kataya. With the idea that some schools could possibly be closing, how do we view repairs more generally? So, for example, there's contemplated closings of elementary schools. We have elementary school playgrounds as part of this bonding. Can you just talk through what your thought process is on that, and how you see repairs going forward until those decisions are made? Or Sean. How you doing, Sean?
Good. How are you doing tonight, Mr. Ralph? Yes.
Good.
Yeah, so definitely, we could definitely discuss that. So this is these are things that, we have our 5-year capital improvement plan, and we are constantly looking at the needs of the schools. And Mr. Bradbury, as I'm sure you have seen tonight with some of his level of expertise, is very detailed in what those needs are of the school. So what we do is we constantly adjust and assess those schools. So some of these projects, regardless of what that a closing of a school may potentially look like, these are some of these things that we need to engage in right now. So these are projects that we need to engage in regardless. And Mr. Bradbury has his list, and what he does is he constantly is assessing that list. So the highest priority will get moved up accordingly when we receive that bonding money. But it is something that is definitely a high need, and it's something that we have to continually attack regardless of that. And as I'm sure you may have been following some of the other meetings, any long-range plan is going to possibly take time in order for things to go into motion. So these are things that we would need to engage in more sooner rather than later.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Ralph, did I miss a question? The Zoom world, the dog was scratching at the door to go out, if we're just going to be honest. So pardon me if I missed you calling at me, but I'm here now. Sorry.
No worries at all. Sean answered my question to perfection. So, but thank you both. I appreciate it.
My apologies.
No worries. I have a dog too, so I completely understand.
Yes, and he's my number one. Well, next to my son, but yes, thank you for understanding.
You can hear my dog downstairs with a squeaky toy driving me nuts because it's been cooped up inside all day. So, any other questions before we move to vote?
No, sir.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve an ordinance for $5,940,000 for various school improvements. That motion has been seconded. We've had discussion. So if we move to vote, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? I heard no opposed. I heard all ayes, so the motion carries.
Thank you, members of the board.
You're welcome. We'll see you soon. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
We're going to table under new business A and B. We'll revisit it in roughly 30 minutes. Continuing on with the agenda for the regular scheduled Board of Finance meeting. Peter, any staff report?
Mr. Chairman, I have no report at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter, as always. All right, so I'm not going to hear a motion to adjourn. I guess we will go into a recess on the regular scheduled Board of Finance meeting. And we will, I don't know if you can go from one recess to the other. Is that allowed? But what we're trying to achieve here is reopen under the Board of Finance budget hearings, starting with the public library. And on page 35 of the mayor's proposed budget booklet, you'll find public library. And is there anybody from the public library here that'd like to provide some insight context?
Sure. Hi, I'm Scott Burrow, the director. Mr. Chairman and everyone, good to see you all. And keeping the theme, I just hope one of my 5 cats does not like wander through this meeting as well. And that would just be, that's really hurting cats, and you don't know what that is. This year, we took under advisement of the difficult financial situation and not trying to ask for very much. And I think you'll see under capital outlays, the only real request that we had that was of impact was for electronic media, where I was asking to go from 50,000 to 60,000. We've had just in the past year an exponential increase in people using our social media. We added something called Hoopla, and all of you should be library card users, so you know very well what that is. It is a wonderful new system where the Milford residents have access suddenly to almost 2 million items that can be all taken out at once. In other words, Lauren can take out Vera the detective and Damon can take out Vera the detective at the same time. So it's a different system than others that we've had, where you kind of had to wait your turn for the electronic media. So it's really was a game changer. And I had it when I was the director at the Derby Public Library, and I knew how successful it was there. And so that's why we brought it here. And so all that being said, you can guess it costs money to do that. What they do is they bill us on a monthly per usage. So it's a very economical thing. In other words, they don't just blanket give us a bill, and no, it's literally done on actual usage by your people. And right now we're leveling off. It grew from being $1,200 a month to now it's about $2,700 a month, and that's pretty much where it's leveled off for the past 4 months. But we also have something called Overdrive through the state of Connecticut, and we also have something called Canopy. Both are also very popular. And while I understand 10,000 is a big ask there, if you'll notice under periodicals, I'm actually taking away $1,000 from there, because periodicals are not what they used to be honest. We still use them, but we realize that's a lesser thing. So in reality, that section under capital outlays would only be asking for 9,000. I would also humbly say we could also, to be honest, and I probably shouldn't be this honest, if we only increase this by 5,000 instead of 10,000, which would really only be increasing the capital outlay by 4,000, it would be very helpful. So I would humbly suggest that that could be another possibility, instead of a $10,000 ask, a $5,000 ask there.
Right, that's
and that's more than you've ever wanted to know about electronic media. I'm sure.
okay. So let me just make sure I understand what the ask is here. So 60,000 is what's printed in the
correct
budget book, but you're quote unquote off the record between us. Nobody's listening. You're in line with
it's not
what the
recorded
mayor,
or anything.
Yeah, you're in line with what the mayor is asking at 50,000. That seems. if I'm hearing you correct.
I would be more in line with 55,000, which in other words, I would be asking for, instead of a 60,000 increases, to go from 50, which it is now. That 50 is leveling it off. It's what it is now, to go to 55. That's what I would be asking.
Okay, thank you for the clarity.
With nobody hearing, with nobody listening.
Understood. Just one Scott to another. I get it.
That's right. Yes, we Scots unite. But talking with my assistant director, who's actually very helpful in because she also is the one who purchases some of our electronic material, we had a discussion even today during the snow day, that 5,000 would not be unreasonable to help us achieve what we need to achieve. And I have to be honest with you all, this will probably be a line item that will need to grow in the future, because this is certainly a way that libraries are going to help the public. And so it's something that I will be talking certainly with the mayor and Peter and everybody to make sure that if we do have to ask for more money in the future, and I don't mean like tomorrow, but I mean in the future, in the next 5 years or so, this might be something we just have to look at, because e-media, is really important to the way we communicate with the public, and that they utilize the library's resources.
I just had a question, Scott, and I'm a library frequenter, so thank you.
Yeah, I know you are, absolutely.
Yeah, is that why you called me out?
That's why I called you out, yeah.
Thank you. Would you ever be able to decrease like the books line item if we're moving towards this electronic media portal?
Since we're not being recorded and nobody can hear me at all, I didn't say yes to that, but it is something, and Peter and I and Holly and I've actually, it's something to be discussed. I'm not saying it would be impossible, but before we did it, we need careful consideration of what we do there, because as you know, we just changed from Baker and Taylor to Brodart this year successfully. I could tout my accomplishment on that, but it's been very helpful. But we need to see how those discounts hold, because a whole bookseller disappeared. And are they going to hold those 45% book discounts or not? And it's still a real debatable thing in library land. So before I say a full yes to that, I would say partial, maybe in the future that could be a line item where we could move.
Thank you. I have a hard copy book downstairs right now and my books on my Libby app. So
You
I
don't have
use
to
both
prove your bona
worlds.
fides to me. Yes, I'm sure you do. And that's what we hear it on, I don't mean to
Yeah.
take up the meeting, but we
No.
we hear that across the desk all the time, that people are
Yeah.
using both e and actual books.
Right.
Kids love the e-stuff. Our e-stuff it's not just it's graphic novels,
Right.
it's all sorts of things. So it's really a game changer.
For sure. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Lauren.
Mr. Brill, I see you have a request for a library assistant. Is that it appears to be a new position.
Yes.
And has that been a request that is just this budget year, or is that something that we've seen the last couple of years? I'm forgetting offhand.
Mr. Chairman, yes, you saw it when Chris Angeli had asked for one, and I also asked for it last year. As I think I mentioned, it is for us a safety issue. We only have in our reference department, most of our departments have a supervisor and 2 library assistants. Our reference department, which is on the main floor, just has a supervisor and 1 library assistant. And so this would be something that on the main floor, we would have an extra full-time person. Unlike what Chris had asked for, though, this is, I don't mean to say just in a negative way, but this is just a library system. This is not like a special publicity person. It's nothing. It's the position that we know and love, who could cover any department in the library as a library assistant, like our current wonderful library assistants do now. So it's a position that was cut. I'm going to guess maybe before even Gene Sang was the director that long ago. And it just not having it come back it's difficult for staffing and stuff. So, and that's why we asked for it again, but we are fully aware, and I'll be fully honest. I fully understand that creating a new position in this budget season might not be a total reality. I'll just be honest. I haven't kind of heard that in the wind, and so I understand that. But it would be an intrinsic position to the library. I had presented to the Board of Aldermen, and I can present the same thing at a future thing to you. I'm in my home. I don't have all my stuff with me today. Stratford Library is a very good comparison. They also serve a population of about 53,000 people, and they have 27 full-time library staff members. The Milford Public Library has 14. That's a little bit of a difference, and I'm asking for 1 more. And it's similar in other places that have that. So that's why I think Chris started this conversation of this, and I believe it as well. I think she was right about this, having this another library assistant at the library. But again, I understand reality. We're totally understand facing that.
All right. Thank you for answering that question and the clarity around that. Anybody else on the board have any questions while we have Scott here?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Brill, when I've come into the library recently, I've noticed that there's a substantial, what I perceive to be unhoused population in the library. Some people sleeping, some people whatever. I'm just curious, what challenges does that present for you? And do you perceive that deters people from coming to the library?
Thank you for the question. I have, since I've become the director, this has been probably number 1 or number 2 on my list of issues that I'm tackling. I think she's still in the room. She might not be, but we have been working very closely in the past year with Bethel. We actually now have, and with the police department, we actually have 2 days a week, we have a social worker from the police department who comes to the library, and we have a social outreach person. There's Jen, social outreach person who comes to the library. And it has, I've just talked with my staff. The mayor actually visited the library last week, and one of the staff members mentioned how she has felt the difference in this winter as opposed to last winter, when it was, Damon, you're right. It was a very difficult problem. It was almost we didn't know what to do because we're not trained social workers and we're librarians. And so we had to grapple with this situation. And you're right. Is this making people not want to come to the libraries and all those kind of things, whether it's the perceived correctness or not? We're well aware of that perception. And we're doing our best to try to minimize thing, but we're also a free public space. And on a cold day, we are a warming center. We are, as the mayor will point out, we are a warming center when we're open. And so we don't turn away people unless they're breaking the rules. And I will add, you're right. If someone's sleeping there, okay, well, we also have a million other things that we're trying to do, and it's hard to tackle all those things that are happening at the same time when I have a limited staff, as I just think I mentioned a little bit. And we do not in any way ask our part-timers, which we rely on heavily, to address, to directly address people that might be, whatever, that might an unknown situation in that. And so myself or a full-time staff member are the only people who deal with that. So there's only so much we can do sometimes. But what's great, I'm sorry to go on too long, but what's great is that with Jen's help, and Jen Paradis is marvelous and has really helped give us support. Jason Blakeman from Bethel also helps reinforce our rules with the people who come in our library who are unhoused, who also maybe are at Bethel or whatever. That there are definitely concrete rules over there, but guess what? There are also definitely concrete rules at the library. And so while it isn't perfect, I'm not a Pollyanna and we didn't solve it, it has gotten much better, I must say, Mr. Ralph. It really has. So
Well, thank you very,
I work on it every day. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that thorough answer. And I appreciate that it's a balancing act, right? I mean, they're members of the public who should have free access to the library. And, I can imagine that drawing the lines is challenging. The question really, what I was trying to get at was the strain on staffing. And I think you also touched on what people's expertise is in handling these types of situations. And so that's really kind of what I wanted you to highlight, what you did. So thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for the question. And it has been floated out, and I will just say it here, and I know it's not in any of this discussion, but a security guard has been utilized in many other libraries that are nearby effectively. And that's all I'll say about that. Thank you for the question, Mr. Rowe.
Well, if I see Jen Paradis jumped in there for a second. Jen, would you like to comment as well?
Hi, good evening, everybody. I guess I would just reflect what Scott had shared. It's difficult in a community that has very limited shared public spaces to strike this balance that the space is accessible, and not just accessible, but appropriate for everybody. I think we're all kind of in that space as well. And so we have worked a lot over the past year with staff at the library, with Scott and his team, and really so we're all marching to the beat of the same drum, and we're all on the same page around how do we collectively respond around that. And I can talk a little bit more during my time on the agenda around just what that looks like. But a lot of that looks like, Bethel kind of trying to adapt some of our policies and procedures to better support the library and kind of how far they can come to the work. And this really comes down to space and places for folks who are unhoused to be during times in which there are not other options open. Many of the options that are available, do require payment. So something like using a bathroom requires you to buy a cup of coffee and things like that. So it's challenging in a community to be unhoused for lots of reasons. I think Scott and his team have done a beautiful job saying what they need, and we have really tried to meet that need. And so it's a day-to-day effort. You can't take your foot off the gas on it.
As long as I have you, I guess this is a bit of a crossover between the two of you, but not knowing like what the policies are of Bethel to a fine degree, why do the unhoused leave Bethel to go to the library? Are they required to leave during the day? Is that part of the? I don't really know. So
yeah. A couple of things. One, we run a number of different programs on our site. Some of them are overnight 24/7 programs. Some of them are overnight programs. Some of them are day programs. The population that receives services at the center can be enrolled in one, and some, and so that really depends on, how they are utilizing our site. Can they be there 24 hours a day? Do they have an assigned bed there every single night? That's a very finite population of people because we only have 12 male beds, 5 female beds, and 6 families. Whereas our no free shelter program right now, which is a night to night program for cold weather, is seeing numbers like 60 folks per night. So that kind of 24/7 operation is very limited strictly because of capacity, not because of want, not because of need, not because of desire or anything like that, just capacity. And so folks often roll into those programs that come just before shelter or just before permanent housing, like our no freeze program, like our community kitchen. We have adapted a lot of our protocols to say, here is your space of belonging, you can be here. We've opened up volunteer opportunities for our population, not just to meet SNAP benefits and Medicaid benefit changes, but to keep people on site longer, quite frankly, because we are the space where people do feel like they most belong. With that said, there are folks who want to be somewhere else other than the center and come to the library to utilize those resources. We're great, but you might not want to be with us 24/7, right? 7 days a week. And with that said, there are times in which, meals end at 1 p.m. So you do see a number of folks who are leaving at 1 p.m., might be going to the library, might be going somewhere else, might be waiting for the bus or the train and kind of doing other things. So there is kind of a variety of reasons why we have really relaxed the hard and fast rules of you can't be on site, like you must leave. Years ago, we got rid of that in our shelter program. So anybody that has a permanent bed with us, there's no requirement to leave in the morning. And then we try to create, the engagement that keeps people there longer during the day. It's not, all day, every day. It definitely is more in the winter time, simply because we have more resources for staffing capacity and support. So I hope that helps to clarify, but happy to go through more now or in my part of the presentation.
I have more questions, but I'll save them for your portion of the meeting.
And
I'll
just tag on to what Jennifer said. And to be even clear, and Jennifer, correct me if I'm wrong, there are also people who don't utilize Bethel at all, who are unhoused, right? And they just might be that they think the library is a safer place or whatever. So it's hard to just give you a direct, here's what every day, because literally, Jen's right, every day is a little bit different of what we see. So yeah.
Got it.
But it's been difficult on staff, but this past year it has improved, and certainly Jen's been great. But I also want to stress having the police social worker there 2 and sometimes 3 days a week really has been a game changer. We've provided so that she's just now out in the open. She has a meeting room where she can meet with people directly and give them privacy and dignity. And it really has begun we have seen the sea shift. Again, we haven't solved it. I don't think anybody's just going to solve it, but thank you for that question. I really appreciate it because it's something that I think of it every single day that I'm the library director.
I appreciate that. Thank you both for your answers.
All right, very good. And Jen, we'll look forward to your presentation in a few moments. But Mr. Brill, unless anybody has any other questions, we appreciate your time. We appreciate your work.
Well, I appreciate you all. Thank you very much for this opportunity too.
Very good. We will move on.
Mr. Chairman, I have just one quick question.
Go ahead, sorry.
Has there been any discussion with the police department and Chief Mello regarding maybe extra patrols going through the library as a deterrent or?
Yes, Mr. Matchett, I have. And when Justin in the past administration, he and I were working on that, it happens infrequently. Sometimes, and I'll be totally honest, what happens is it happens. and then maybe after a few weeks, it has stopped happening. So I understand the police have limited resources as well, and they don't always have time to patrol the library. But it has been asked I've only been here about less than 2 years, and I've asked 3 different times. So I can ask again. But sometimes I get yep, it's going to happen, and my staff report back to me that they have not seen police officers doing a regular patrol. So that's an honest answer, and I'm not casting blame or aspersions or anything. I totally understand everyone's department is very difficult and overburdened, but it's another thing that you're all reading my mind. These are exactly procedures and ways that I have tried to help the situation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brill.
All right, very good. We're going to move on to page 14 in the budget book. Elections. Anyone here from elections?
Yeah, Carrie's on.
Yes. Yes, I'm here. Deborah's here, and Pete Smith is here, the city clerk.
All right, excellent. Well, I'll open it up with questions. We see a bit of a jump this year relative to the last couple years under elections. Do you mind providing a little context for that?
Well, it varies year after year in terms of what elections we're holding. So last year was the municipal election, and it's far less likely to have a primary election at the same time. This coming year, the budget we're discussing now is our state and federal election with the governor on the ballot. And oftentimes we will see, and we've already, Deborah could speak to this too, heard of people making challenges which would result in an August primary, which falls within this budget cycle. So if we have both a Democratic and a Republican primary in August, we are also going to have the general election. And with that comes 7 days of early voting, in addition to the 14 days of early voting that we see in the general elections. So it is an increase this year for sure.
Yeah, and I just also add, Carrie, that, with early voting, there has been state support in the past, but in the governor's budget, there was no revenue for that. So I do think we just need to, not that that's necessarily reflected here, but I think we need to keep that in mind in terms of, I think Milford really needs to be proud of the election work that our registrars do and the time and effort it takes to make that work. But if the state doesn't provide any funding for that, I just think we need to keep that in mind.
Yeah, that's a great point. The state has provided grant money that we were able to justify using all of what they gave us. And in fact, because of our turnout numbers in early voting, we were allotted more in the municipal election because we had such a strong turnout in the first time doing this in the presidential. The voters of Milford love early voting, and we provide them with a pretty good experience through Parsons to get almost half of our turnout happening early. But to Mr. Smith's point, without it was almost 30,000, I believe, in grant money. That's why we've asked for a larger amount than what we've seen in the past, because we just don't know when that funding will end.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, so folks in Milford can be proud. If you look at the total number of people who voted before Election Day in last year's municipal election, Milford was the top municipality. So that's out of 169 towns. We had more people cast their ballot before Election Day than any other community, and that. Honestly, without absentee ballots, Stratford would have won, but absentee brought us over the top, so we were number one. So it's nice to be number one in some things.
Mr. Smith, is with early voting, or I shouldn't say, the voting, is that like, have we seen an uptick in just our turnout in general, or is it just we spread out the same number over a week or so.
I think Carrie's a better, Carrie keeps all the numbers on that, but I think it's more of a spread out and it's a convenience of the electorate.
I will say that normally we see a 41% turnout in the municipal, and we were over 45%. So I do think that in the first presidential, it didn't change, but about a half a percentage point increase, because that's our biggest election always. But to see that kind of a jump in a municipal election, I think will lend itself to better turnout going forward.
Yeah. Okay. And just refresh my memory, I forget, is that early voting, is that, or spreading it out there, is that a state requirement or is it up to each municipality to determine
We are
what's best for the
required
citizen?
to provide at least one early voting location for 14 days prior to a general election. That is a state writ law.
Yeah. And I think the thing that could potentially change, Scott, is that, as many of you may remember, we did pass a constitutional amendment on absentee ballots. There's a bill this year, and I've been told that they will make that change for no excuse absentee ballots. And so early voting is the one that we all think about in the cafeteria, but I mean in the gymnasium and the Parsons complex. But with no excuse absentee, that's going to open up early voting to the beginning of the month. So you'll be able to come in and vote by absentee, or honestly just walk into the city clerk's office and cast your ballot after, October 3rd. So this whole election system and cycles are continuing to change. So that makes it more difficult for us to say, well, this is the way it's operating and this is what people are used to. Connecticut's sort of going through some revamping on its election system that we'll have to pay attention to.
Understood. Thank you.
That partially answered my question. I remember, Carrie, we spoke about this last year, on how it didn't affect voter turnout and the costs associated with just making it convenient for everybody, rather than making it. But with approximately 4% increase in the municipal election, I mean, what's the cost associated? How much is the cost gone up for our municipality, with the early voting, versus the traditional way that we used to do it?
I don't have the exact figure on that, but what I can tell you is that the almost $30,000 grant money was used to fund early voting. And then we had an additional expense of about 15. And I don't know if Deborah has her notes with her, but $15,000 to $20,000. So it is if we take $45,000 more. However, once we get going, to Pete's point, and we start to stabilize our turnout, and we start to recognize where our needs are and what days they're needed in early voting, and we may be able to reduce polling locations, which would bring costs back down. And so that's something that Deborah and I talk about a lot, in terms of how, because we are seeing the increase in funding coming from the municipality, but we also are seeing a future where those costs could come down, which would be really great for all of us, right? Because we have to plead for the money now, and we want to save the taxpayer monies. It's not just the convenience. It's where are people going to vote, and we will put our personnel in those places so that it is cost effective.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I would like to add too to that if we got $27,861 from the state, and Carrie and she had about a 15. Well, we both had averaged out about 15,000 each for the 14 days of early voting. The other thing that we might save money on for later would be the ballots. We have no way of knowing whether they're going to go to absentee ballot with Pete, or whether they're going to go to early voting, or whether they're going to go to the polling place. So that is a dilemma. And if we had the primary, we know it's going to be at least probably $50,000 for each of us just to have a primary. So I know when we had asked for 180,000 for election, that we thought that that was a fair amount without having any grant money coming in. And there are no guarantees ever for the grant money coming in from the state. So.
The state mandates this, as we know. Do they mandate how we do it or how much we have to spend? Or they just say, hey, you got to do it and you got to come up with the money? Is there I guess an outline, or is there are there guidelines that we have to follow?
Yes, they provide guidelines, and they recommend, keeping wait times reduced. And there's certain jobs that we must have in place, like a paper checker book to check people in case the computer system goes down. We were required to do that. And then from there, we've improved the process that they gave us the guidance for, I guess is the best way to say it, so that people can move through in an efficient way. And I think that's why we're number one in the state, because it's highly efficient. I do little things like notify the people in the building that this is happening and beg them by standing outside the employees park up in the ball field lot to allow for parking and getting people in and out of the polling location efficiently. So, we are giving guidance, but we've done a great job, the numbers show, of making sure that it's happening efficiently and effectively.
Do they have any mandatory minimum staffing or any
Yes.
mandatory requirements?
Yes, we're mandatorily staffed to have the positions that we have. Yes.
No, by the state. The state mandates. Does the state hand
Yes, we
out
have to have paper checkers. Yes, we have to have CVRS checkers who prepare the labeling for each ballot envelope. We have to have ballot clerks, and we have to have ballot box tenders.
Moderator.
And a moderator.
But do they I'm not trying to beat a dead horse here, but do they say how many, like, per
No,
capita?
they don't tell you
do
exactly. Other than the moderator, they don't tell you how many. No.
Oh, okay. All right. So, like, there's no formula. Milford has 50,000 residents, and we have to have a minimum of so many staffing for early elections. Nothing like that.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
And Jeff, that's sort of what Carrie was saying in terms of the more data we get, the more we can create efficiencies. I mean, really what we don't want to see is we don't want to see people waiting in line for hours to vote. That's like the nightmare scenario. And I think, the registrars did a good job in terms of creating something brand new, and it was very efficient. But I can attest to the fact that, we're always thinking about how to make it more efficient, and you don't want to overstaff. And I know that, Carrie, I've seen them send people home when it's not busy. So I think everyone is sort of focused on making sure we have enough, we're mindful
I want to
of.
comment on that too. We did overstaff the first weekend because we had done pretty well during the week, but it got very, very quiet. And we sent, in fact, I think it was just me, Deborah, and two other people that finished the last several hours on both Saturday and Sunday, something like that. Where, Deborah and I do the work ourselves when the volume is low enough to allow us to do that. So we're looking to save. We hire people with the understanding that if turnout doesn't warrant you being here, we're not going to waste the money to have you here. So we've gone from 4 or 5 checker books down to 1 or 2 as soon as we see what the volume is. And as we're getting used to the trends, we don't need to hire as many on that first weekend of early voting, it seems.
Thank you.
Through you,
Under
Mr. Chair.
elections. Go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead, Scott.
Damon, did you have a question under elections?
I did. Hi, Carrie. Hi, Pete. Could you just give us a status update on the aging of the physical equipment we use for our elections? And what is the replacement schedule?
So we just received new tabulators. So they're very new. I believe the contract that the state signed with the vendor is for 10 years. So they were very reliable, and they were very accurate to the exact, because we were audited. So we did hand counting to verify the accuracy. And we have a very high powered central counting machine, which is outstanding. So to answer your question, we have about 9 years left.
Great. That's a great answer. Any concerns about security?
In terms of the polling place security or the equipment security, I mean, we always are trying to make sure that both our poll workers, our office staff are, in a secure environment. We work closely with the police department prior to elections. We work very closely with some emergency management processes to make sure that those things are taken care of when we keep everything under lock and key and secure according to the law with our equipment. So I wouldn't say I'm concerned. I would say when I say I mean Deborah and I, we take a lot of pride, and we put a lot of effort into making sure that those laws are followed and things are secure.
Thank you. No more questions. For me, anyway.
All right. Thank you so much. Interesting. Very interesting. So elections, what I'd like to do, and Peter, keep me in check here if we're allowed to do this. I want to go to recess, right before registrars of voters presents, because I see Mr. Saley has logged on and promptly at 6:30, like Mayor Smith had requested he do. And just given the weather situation and everything like that, I'd like to be able to go back to the bond ordinance and wrap that up, and then come back to the budget hearings. Is that appropriate? Are we allowed to do that?
We just have
Mr.
to
Chairman,
motion.
yes, I believe you may do that. You would recess the budget hearing and then make a motion to resume the regular monthly meeting, come out of recess.
Okay. So can I get a motion to recess the budget hearing?
I'll make a motion to recess the budget hearing and go back to our regularly scheduled Board of Finance meeting. Is that correct?
That sounds
Second.
good. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. I don't hear any opposed, do I? Very good. So we're going to reopen under the regular scheduled meeting. And I just want to real quickly thank the people that are here to present to the Board of Finance through the normal budget hearing, and just appreciate your patience. If you just logged in a little bit later, we had some questions for DPW on some bonding, and just due to the storm, they're kind of spread thin. So we just want to respect their time in a tough evening for them.
Mr. Chairman?
So we had, go
Mr.
ahead.
Chairman, I just want to make a motion to take it off the table, those bonding issues, and resume discussions on them.
That sounds like a good motion. Anybody want to second that?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
All right, very good. I'm just going to come off video just because my Wi-Fi is buffering. So we had a motion for two ordinances, one relative for sanitary sewers and wastewater facilities, and the second one relative for what appeared to be trucks, garbage trucks. I think we were trying to get a little bit of clarity around just an overview of the project for the first ordinance of $6,050,000. Lindsay was explaining it, but his Wi-Fi was a little scattered. So I think we just needed, Chris, maybe just a quick overview, just high level. What are we looking at here with this sanitary sewer pump station upgrade?
So, good evening, everybody. I apologize. I assumed with the snow emergency or snow that everything was canceled. So that's my fault again. I apologize. I appreciate your patience.
Understood.
So the number one thing on the sewer agenda bonding is there's a force main that goes from West Ave up to Bick Drive. It was replaced a number of years ago, I think about 10 years ago, with a second one. And it was always under the impression that the first one would be repaired and relined, which I don't know why they didn't do it when they were doing all this other work, but they didn't. And just to give some background, this pump station is our biggest pump station. It does about 4 to 5 million gallons a day of sewage. And this force main carries it down past Kennedy, down Bick Drive or Subway, and then to Bick Drive, and it dumps in. And there's no redundancy for that force main. So God forbid something would break or have an issue, we would literally be in a tough spot. So we thought it was prudent that the city invest. It's not an inexpensive project to do, but they would line the pipe with a new fiberglass lining, and hopefully we get another 80 years. So we'd have redundancy similar to what we have at Gulf Pond. We have 2 force mains at Gulf Pond. So if one ever went bad, we could switch to the second one. Also pump stations, and that's one of the things globally, we're updating a number of pump stations. We've updated, right now we're working on Rogers Ave. And there's a strong need to get into, some of these pump stations like First Ave I think it was built in 75. So obviously it's past its useful life.
That's some extra good insight. Thank you, Mr. Saley. Anybody have any questions for Chris while we have him on that topic?
I do not.
All right, hearing no additional questions, we have a motion. We have a seconded motion for this bond ordinance of $6,050,000. Can we hear a vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any members opposed? Okay, hearing none, the motion carries.
Thank you.
And Chris, one last thing. We had a motion and for the ordinance for $990,000, various vehicles for the Department of Public Works. It sounded like it was 2 garbage trucks, and there were a couple just questions. What's the lag time? I know with these Quinch trucks with the fire department, it could be several years before we actually take possession of these and they put them into operation. A, what's the lag time? And then B, are these replacing anything in the fleet currently?
Yeah. So thanks, Scott. So yeah, ever since COVID, the lead time has been anywhere from 18 months to 24 months. And sometimes it even pushes past 24 months. And historically, trash trucks should be replaced. The industry standard for private haulers is every 6 to 7 years. The trucks we're replacing were originally purchased in 2012. So we think it's obviously, and it's one of the reasons why you're going to see that on our parts for the garage, we're again spending more than our budget a line item. It's just trash is a very expensive thing for us to do. So. And even though you bond it now, we probably won't see it for 18 months.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Chris regarding this ordinance?
Just through you, Mr. Chair, is it for 2 trucks? Is that all it's for, or there's anything else?
No, it's 2 trucks. That's what it is for, Ray.
Okay.
They're not cheap. When I first started, we were picking these trucks up right around 300, 295, 320, 330. They're over $400,000 now. It's crazy.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, so we have a motion on the table. We've had some discussion around it. I think we can call it to vote. All those in favor of
Aye.
ordinance
Aye.
for $990,000. So that's an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Chris, good luck the rest of the next few days. Really appreciate you being flexible tonight, and thanks for chiming in. We appreciate it, and appreciate all you and your guys are doing right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Scott.
Okay, so I want to take I want to hear a motion to adjourn the regular scheduled Board of Finance meeting. We've already gotten through the rest of the agenda items for that portion of the meeting. So can I hear a motion to adjourn that segment?
I'll make a motion to adjourn our regularly scheduled Board of Finance meeting and now go back into our budget hearings.
I get a second?
Does it have to be two separate?
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And I will reopen the Board of Finance budget hearings where we left off earlier. So we're going to move on to the Registrar of Voters, which is on page 15. And again, I just want to thank everybody for being patient. Just kind of bouncing back and forth here, and hopefully the minutes reflect we did it all the right way. Otherwise, sorry about that. So anybody from the Registrar of Voters want to comment on their budget?
Hello.
Yeah, we're still here. And we'd be happy. I mean, I don't have anything I want to say, Deborah, but go ahead if you do, and otherwise we'll answer questions.
We'll just answer questions. Although we should say about Total Vote. Total Vote is a new program that's coming for registrars for the centralized version of voter registration for the state. And it was supposed to have been started today, but we had a delay because the state was not ready. So once that happens, we will be getting our staff, everyone in our office trained on the new Total Vote training. And so that might be some extra hours, overtime, that kind of stuff. So we're not looking forward to any cuts in our registrar's budget. Okay.
What is Total Vote?
Total Vote is just what the name of the centralized voting registration. It was always CVRS. The mayor uses it. The city clerk uses it. We use it. It's what we register our voters with. DMV registration comes through them. Online voter registration comes through them. And it's a whole total replacement because the other one was so out of, it's no longer secure, or it's secure for now, but not for much longer. We have to get a new program, and we'll have a new learning curve to learn all of that.
If you don't mind, which line item is Total Vote?
That would come under overtime. That's not a line item. It comes under our overtime amount and our seasonal temporary amount.
Okay, there we go.
That we would need additional monies for, and travel for any training. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions for the Registrar of Voters while we have them? Very good. Thank you. And I think we're going to move on to City Clerk.
Thank you.
Page 22. We appreciate your flexibility, everybody.
Let me know when.
Fire away.
Okay, so nice to see you, and pardon my dog, she just came to visit. Just as a quick aside, a lot of the stuff that we did, we talked about the election cycle, so I'm gonna just push that off to the to the side, but that's a big chunk of what the city clerk's office does. We raise about $5 million for both the city and the state, and we have over 60,000 transactions that come through our office on an annual basis. That does everything from dog licensing and births, deaths, marriages, veterans, paperwork, and things like that. So I think if you look at the budget, there are a couple changes, and some of the increases are based on the fact that we have 3 new people in our office, which is going to necessitate a lot of training. We found some savings in our salary line because we actually someone with a significant amount of experience retired, and that reduced the amount of money. But what it necessitates is it necessitates training. Each of our assistant city clerks have to be trained according to their contract. They have to be trained through a state program that takes about 3 years to get that training, and that's on site. So that creates travel time and mileage and things like that. Otherwise, it's a pretty tight budget. I think the things that we're trying to do is we're really looking at ways that we can provide better customer service at a better cost. I mean, that's kind of the mantra. We're a very public facing agency. You know, with those 63 out of those 63,000 transactions, a number of them are face to face in the clerk's office, and so all of our staff takes a lot of pride in terms of making those interactions with our citizens positive. I'm happy to answer any questions on specifics, but that's about what we have.
Thank you for that context. And, and I had a question and you answered it by explaining that you had someone at a higher pay grade retire. So thank you for that.
The one thing I would say, and I forgot, sorry, sorry, Jeff, but we are also very proud that when you think about this, the city and our agency we're the only city agency that has documents in our vault from the 1600s. I mean, you think about sort of what we do on a day-to-day basis in terms of business transactions, but the reality is the city clerk's office is the repository for our community's history. And we have over 4,000, believe it or not, 4,127 volumes of land records. And the first land records, volume 1, that's a 1600s document. That is an original document that's in our vault. So that's just my PSA on all of my historic stuff. Sorry.
Really cool. Really cool.
Pete, I have a question. We were meeting in person at the board meeting the other night at the Parsons, and there was no little flags in our spots there like there were at the Board of Aldermen. So I was just a note.
There was no, I didn't want to offend. I'm sorry. I apologize.
And then I just have one question. Is there do you incur any additional expenses with regards to the early voting?
That's
what the elections does?
Well, that's a really good question, because this is a lot of the discussion that's going on right now in Hartford with this legislation. And it's new to us. It's new to Connecticut. And what happens in other states, in fact, early voting, the no excuse absentee ballot becomes early voting. And in fact, in some states around our country, the majority of the ballots come through the mail. They're talking about a variety of different ideas. Some is just getting rid of on an absentee ballot, you have to check a box. And if you don't check a specific reason, you can't vote that way. They're talking about just removing that. They're also talking about completely changing the absentee ballot process so it's a single envelope. Right now, absentee ballots, if anyone's ever voted by absentee, it's complicated. And believe it or not, we end up with about 25 or 30 citizens who thought they voted properly, but their vote doesn't count because you didn't put your ballot in envelope B and then put it in envelope C, and it wasn't signed and it wasn't sealed. And there's a variety of reasons that your ballot gets voided. So they're trying to figure out a way to make that more efficient. If that does happen, I think what will take place is you'll see a large, Carrie had cited the percentage of folks that voted early. I think there will be a larger percentage I think there will be an increased percentage that vote by mail. I think the other thing that they're looking to do is we have things called permanent absentee ballots. Those permanent absentee ballots are really geared towards disabled folks. So if you have a disability and we get a note from your physician, we mail you a ballot at the beginning of October. And so you don't have to request a ballot. We'll mail it right to you. And that's the process for the convenience of disabled folks. That can get a whole lot easier in different ways. And it's just different tranches of ways that number one, you make sure the ballot is secure. Number two, you make sure they're a U.S. citizen and all that registration has happened. But once that happens, then you really want to make it simple for an American citizen to vote, and that's all. So long answer to the question, but it's evolving. So I think we'll have a better read next year and probably the year after.
Thank you.
Pete, this question, I don't know if this is necessarily a budget question, but just one out of curiosity. The documents that you referenced from the 1600s, are those accessible to the public?
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
How much volume do you see in that regard?
Excuse me?
How much volume do you see in that regard? Do you get historians?
We get a fair amount of, I mean, if something happens in the press and somebody sees something, they tend to come in. So it depends on how much we're talking about it. My personal deal is I'm really like unlocking these documents that are locked away in a vault. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to put some online. We're trying to make them more available to the people online. But even if they're online, people like to see the original, and it's our job to protect them. That's one of the challenges that we have, and we're actually going to do some improvements within the vault on security, because the reality is these are original documents, and the last thing you want is for somebody with bad ideas to do something bad, and that's our responsibility. So we do have, we have pretty significant video surveillance. The state library has a lot of regulations in terms of what has to be, how the vault has to be structured, and we're in the process of making some security improvements.
Interesting. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Smith? All right. Very good. We will let you get to your evening, and thank you for the context. Appreciate it.
Yep. Take care.
All right. Flip to page 87. We have a grant from the Council on Aging. Is there anybody here from the Council on Aging?
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Hope you're well.
Yes, snow day like everyone else.
No day like a snow day. Why don't you give us a little context with regards to the grant here?
Sure. So a little background in the event that someone does not know what the Milford Senior Center is and what we do. We serve about just under 2,200 older adults annually. We're open Sunday to Friday, about 45 hours of weekly programming. We have 34 paid staff, 80 volunteers. We're a nonprofit. We serve as a multi-program public health, education, and a community hub. The grant, what I'm looking at for our grant is an increase for our programs of $90,001, and in our senior nutrition line to $30,000. We originally had our grant stay flat for, probably a good portion of 10 years or so. We did receive $39,001 last year, and we're just looking to bring that up just so that we can stay stable. It's really more of a sustainability increase than it is anything else. We've been working with a budget that unfortunately has really stayed stagnant, while the needs of the population we're serving has just steadily increased. So housed under the Milford Senior Center, we have the Milford Food Bank, the Aaron's Respite Program. We have our mini lunch program, Meals on Wheels, social services, and then of course our programs that are wellness-based, creativity, social connections. So the $90,001 increase for the operating portion would help support what we currently have. Looking at the numbers, between wages, health insurance, premium, pension, and then a non-employee wages, we're at about 1.3 almost 1.4 just for those pieces there. We do have membership costs that we did increase last year. We went from, or the year before, I can't remember at this point, we went from $15 to $25. That helped a little bit. We also looked at some cost savings, just making sure that we're cognizant of our hours, our labor hours, ensuring that we're not adding anyone, that everyone that's in is serving their purpose and their role. They're certified, they're licensed, they're essential, essentially. So that's kind of the quick version of what I have written down here for everyone. If you like the long version, I'm happy to give that to you too. I mean, I have 2 dogs here that are watching and been listening to me perform on mute here. But I know that it's already 7 and I want to be able to get to any questions that you might have.
Well, we appreciate that. And we're here to give everybody as much time as they need, despite pets and snow and whatever else. So we can open it up for questions. I just have one question before I turn it over to everybody else. So this is a grant. What's the total budget for your department?
Well, the city grant portion is the 1. I think with the I'm asking for the increase. With the increase would be 1.4748. I'm asking for the current dollar placeholder of the for the senior nutrition to go to 30,000. Then we have the gas propellant line at 20,000. The office supplies at 4,000. So totally what I'm asking for this budget would be 1528,800. So 1.528,800. Like I said, this would be a $90,001 increase. We do receive some funds through membership costs, as I mentioned before. And essentially that's our main thing. We have a small thrift shop that brings a couple dollars in. Other than that, I do a lot of grant writing where I can, how I can. So, I've been able to reduce the overall ask that I had even the year prior because I am going out for grants. For example, I received a Connecticut DOT grant for a 20 passenger vehicle. It would have cost $146,000, give or take. If we would have had to do it on our own, the grant provided us about 80% or so. So out of our operating account, that was I think it was $29,960, $945, somewhere in that ballpark. I also gotten grants from other places so that I can pick up vehicles for our Meals on Wheels, for our food bank. So I'm doing a lot of that on my end. And I know that was an ask that I had before is, what are you doing for grant writing? What are you doing to bring monies in? I'm doing quite a bit. It's just this very narrow gap that I have here that it's really hard to close because it's mainly wages, health insurance, just the general operating portions. It's really nothing more than that. I know you had a question there. I hope I answered it in between, but there's
you provided some you provided a little context, which was helpful. I think specifically I'm looking for what is your total budget? So what is the total cost to run Council on the Aging?
It's approximately 1.7.
Okay, so this is a relatively, mildly put, relatively significant part of your overall budget.
Correct.
How many seniors or members there currently? Do you know?
I'm sorry?
How many members do you have? How many people paying the $25 fee?
It's just under 2,200. I think because the number changes every day. Essentially, it's about 2,100 and something. So just under that $2,200 mark. Plus, we have users of the food bank. That's additional 500 clients that do not have to be members. We also have social service clients. That's roughly about another 200 individuals that do not need to be members that we're serving in the community. plus anyone else we interact with that are contacting us that may not be a senior.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Anybody else have questions?
Through you,
For
Mr.
Nora, while
Chair.
we have her?
Sure. Through you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Rodriguez, does the Council on Aging have accounts with cash positions? And if so, are they
We
available
have
to be used?
I'm sorry?
And if so, are they available to be used to cover the costs that you've discussed here?
So we do have an investment account. However, we've determined that if we were to go into that account to cover the costs, cover this gap, we essentially would be out within the next 3 to 4 years.
Okay. Damon, did your question get answered there?
It did. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. My internet blinked out for a sec, so I'm sorry if I missed something there. Okay, other questions from anyone on the Board of Finance?
Hi, Lenore. I think I remember in the past, we received money from surrounding towns that use our Milford Senior Center. Am I totally off? Am I thinking of a different department?
So we offer membership to non-residents. It's the annual membership of $45, and we cap that at 250 non-residents.
Okay, but nothing from cities or other municipalities.
No.
Okay, no. Yeah.
The only thing we received was a one-time ARPA allocation from the State Unit on Aging, which was provided to all towns and cities in Connecticut as part of the COVID relief.
Okay, thank you.
And while I'm on that subject, we did utilize those that ARPA allocations to upgrade the security cameras, kitchen upgrades that was really required by the health department, digital signage. We upgraded our sound system. We actually chose to offer membership for individuals 75 plus because we wanted to make sure our folks who are much older had an opportunity to continue to come to the center without having at least that concern, at least for 1 year at a time. We were also able to reduce some of the costs of the trips to just ensure that people who might not be socially connected can connect with the community again. And we also got a new phone system. We added a GPS system to our vehicles. We have building-wide Wi-Fi. You know, we added quite a bit to the organization. The goal is to modernize the senior center, and I will say that this center has always been ahead of the curve when it comes to what we offer. To be honest, I've worked in a number of cities. Not only is this city great when it comes to the agency connections, but this senior center itself, as it had been structured even before me coming in, was all about making sure that Milford residents, as they age, actually have the right services for them. And I love that for the Milford residents. But what's a little concerning to me is that you know, our budget is a very slight budget in comparison to one of the smallest schools here in town. We serve the largest population in the entire city. We have a growing population. I think the median age is 46. We have a population of nearly 14,000 folks between ages of 60, about 55, 60 plus here. The city's just getting older, and this is the place where money makes a difference, and it also it provides the necessary services for the folks. So your investment, your dollar return on this is amazing. I was looking, I think there's a saving of $3 to $4 for. Anyways, I can go into stats, but I won't. I'm sorry, I got a little hyper. I just had some Nutella just to keep myself up, but the idea is that this is a very small sustainability that I'm looking at. And I believe that once this is provided, I can continue the idea of continuing the center as we're able to function it at this moment, but also look at ways to modernize it and make it follow the federal guidelines that have now been established for senior centers. So,
Any of our board members join yet?
I don't think anyone's old enough to join. Wink, wink. I got a couple
This
years
board
myself.
you talking about?
What's that? You have to at least be 55.
Are you asking if anybody on the Board of Finance?
I don't know.
is
I
doing?
think some of them might be.
Oh, yeah.
Jeez, Lauren.
Years ago.
Well, thanks for your support there, Ray. All right. Well, we appreciate everything you're doing. We appreciate the work that you and your staff do. It's important work. Does anybody have any other questions before we let Lenora get back to her evening? All righty. Well, thank you so much. Have a good night.
Okay. Good night.
All right. Next up, and I think I see the MAC on the screen here, Milford Arts Council. Hi there, Paige. You're on mute.
Hi, sorry I'm in the dark. Trying to find a place to put my computer has been a little difficult this evening.
No worries. I think we're all having some sort of internet connection. That's why you don't get to
There we
see
go.
my smiling
A little
face.
better.
So we got a grant request, $90,000, been consistent with what we've seen year over year, consistent with what the mayor recommends. Do you have anything you'd like to add or comment on, Paige?
No, I think that, obviously getting the additional fees a few years ago, jumping from 70 to 90 into different jumps, has been phenomenally helpful for us to continue our growth. I think in our finance presentation with the mayor and with Peter present as well, was to point out that originally when I started, our budget was about 180 to 200,000 with a $65,000 gift, which is about a third of our working budget. And our working budget now is about $430,000. So 90,000, although larger, is a much smaller proportion or percentage of our working budget. So we are doing more with less if you were to look at the growth that we have done. In our growth, we are still taxed and stressing out our staff and the number of volunteers that we use. We use about 4,300 some odd hours of volunteer time a year, with a group of about 250 that get emailed, and probably the same 40 to 60 people that volunteer for events throughout the year. The big thing is we realize that in order to sustain the growth and to sustain the organization for the future, we need to find more funding. We know that grants are drying up. We know that sponsorships for an organization of our size, although we are vibrant and exciting, we offer a small reach for those sponsor dollars, and it's been a difficult sell. And we realize that in order to continue the growth and to sustain the organization for the future, we need to come up with a large fundraising event. And we have put together a presentation and put into line the largest event that the organization has ever done, and hopefully the largest event that downtown Milford has ever seen. It will be a one-day, full-day festival in downtown Milford, the first Saturday of October, starting this year in our 250th anniversary celebration of this country. It will focus on jazz music and art, jazz being basically the quintessential art form of the story of our country, celebrating all the nationalities and stories, music and rhythms of nations from across the world. Every single generation rediscovers jazz and interprets it under their own. So it is a art form within itself that displays and really showcases America at its best. We will be hosting live music in 3 outdoor venues, Lisbon Landing will be putting up a stage, Stonebridge Restaurant, and the plaza outside of Parsons Government Complex overlooking the duck pond in the back of City Hall. We will be having live music presented between 10:30 a.m. and 6 o'clock in the evening. In between those three stages, interspersed with our retail and other business and restaurants partners, we will be hosting an art stroll that will be juried by the Arts Council, and then a closing concert at Veterans Memorial Hall in the evening. So we have already made presentations to various donors and potential sponsors. There is huge excitement, and we are finalizing our deck to go after sponsor dollars. We really view this as a huge reach for us, but one that has been a long time coming. There used to be large events that the Arts Council hosted, such as the New England Arts and Crafts Festival on the Green for a number of years. It had ended before my tenure 13 years ago. At the beginning of that, it brought in almost a third of the organization's funding needs. And by the time it had ended, it was only bringing in probably a quarter of what that money was, and was really not a sustaining fundraiser for the organization. It's been a long time, and I think unfortunately we learned through the pandemic that we can go outside of our walls and do things successfully. So we took what we learned, and it's been probably 3 years of development in-house, and we announced it to our board and started putting out promotions about a year ago. So that is our plan for moving forward. But we, obviously could not do this without the support of the city. And I think even people within the city have been excited about this event going forward.
That's great. Yeah, it's always something going on at the MAC. So thank you. While we have Paige, anybody have any questions? Additional questions here? All right. Hearing none. Thank you, Paige. Thank you for all you guys do. We appreciate the contribution to the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Stay safe and warm, everybody.
You too. Page, let's flip to page 89, the Transit Authority. I see we have Mr. Jadek here. Henry, what say you?
Good evening. We're asking for an increase of $10,000 from last year's budget. The strains that we are going to be looking at in the upcoming year or two are what's happening with the state budget and what happened nationally, where a lot of state money is going to be probably going toward programs that hadn't gone there before with healthcare and other items and childcare and so on. So the budget for the state, if we're fortunate, will remain the same. If we're fortunate. We started a microtransit service 2 years ago that's scheduled to end July 1st, although there's a bill before the legislature now that's gotten quite a bit of support to extend that for another year. That program has been very successful, and it continues to grow every month. And it fills, most importantly, it fills a gap in inexpensive, available, handicapped accessible public transportation in the city, which is basically in the evenings until little late at night, and in the evenings on the weekends and during part of the days. That we don't have service on the streets because our budget doesn't go quite that far. Beyond that, we also run, of course, the local fixed route buses, long haul bus from Milford to Norwalk, which is basically a work bus for people along the Route 1 corridor, and the van services for the elderly and disabled. We're struggling with our healthcare, which has increased, of course, and the utilities, new contracts with union employees. So we do have some funds that we have been using pretty judiciously over the last few years. First, the CARES Act and the ARPA funds. So we still have some of those funds left that we can fill some of those holes with. So basically, it's going to be the next couple of years will be one of a lot of evaluation and seeing where the state's going to go. And we're of course very appreciative for many reasons for the city support. City supports us well in a lot of ways. We try to give that back as many ways as we can. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Well, thanks for that update, Henry. Anybody on the Board of Finance have any questions for Henry while we have him here?
Crickets.
Yeah, my internet just died out for a second there, so I don't know if it was no questions or if it was just I glitched with the internet there. But does anybody have any questions before we let? I'm sure, Henry, you've got a lot going on with the storms and all the snow and being in the people movement business. So,
well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, Henry. Good luck the next couple of days. Thank you for all you do.
Okay,
Appreciate your time
thanks.
this evening. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Have a good night, all.
All righty. All right, page 92. Waiting patiently from the beginning. We've got a grant for Bethel for $100,000, and I see Jen is still here. So thanks for sticking around and thanks for being patient, because I think you were one of the first people to log in a couple hours ago. So we got a grant here that's consistent with what we've seen over the last couple of years, consistent with what the mayor recommends. Any comments or anything that you want to add?
Yeah, first, it's so nice to be here with you all. I do make an effort to join at the beginning of the meeting simply because I find it like just really nice to get an update on what other departments are working through. I do think that it's important for all of us to be as coordinated as we can as we work on our issues, right? On our unique needs and missions. So and we're in the throes of statewide work. And so those hearings are like 10 hours long. So not that I'm encouraging you to go longer, but good evening. I'm Jen Paradis from the Bethel Center. My hope is to really just give a summary, a high level overview of the work that we do at the center and kind of what we're working on kind of in the immediate, and then of course turn it over to folks for any questions that you might have. As we discussed a bit earlier in this meeting, I think it's fair to say we all recognize that the issue of homelessness continues to be on the rise. We've seen a 44% increase in homelessness since 2021. That's a statewide statistic. However, in the greater New Haven area, there was an 85% increase up into January 2026, with a 35% increase in family homelessness, a 100% increase in individual homelessness among individuals. In the greater New Haven area, and I know it's kind of tough to talk about this stuff kind of regionally, but there is a bit of transient nature in the work that we do. So we do have to look at regional numbers to get a sense of how we respond here. There's about 1,500 folks experiencing homelessness in the greater New Haven area at this time. We just completed the point in time count. That is an annual national count, or it's a national mandate connected to the federal funds that we receive, that requires us to do an assessment just on the community in which we provide resources for. So it was just a count of people experiencing homelessness in Milford. We expected to see a couple of dozen. That includes our no free shelter population of folks, as well as those that we know to be what we would say living in places not meant for human habitation, places without running water, heat, vehicles, things of that nature. By the end of the night, I believe it was January 24th, we ended the night around 1 a.m. We counted just over 100 individuals that were both either in our no free shelter program, in hotels, because we were in extreme cold weather protocol at that time. think -4 degrees while we were out and counting. And then about 30 or so at the time, folks living in vehicles, or whether they are running vehicles or not running vehicles. So we're certainly seeing a significant increase in homelessness, but unsheltered homelessness. That's the direct, that is the majority of the population that we serve at the Bethel Center. I will say that's certainly not the only population that we serve. We have 6 programs, kind of core programs, everything from homeless prevention services to permanent housing. So we do have a homeless prevention program that is, we call it diversion. It's support through case management and flexible funds to stabilize and in some cases rehouse folks who are at what we would say imminent risk of homelessness. So this is case management, trying to keep people at home. We had 436 prevention cases this past year, which means 400 plus 436 households did not move further along in instability, did not move further along into homelessness. They were stabilized right at our front door. And we want to continue to expand on that work because quite honestly, it's much more effective to invest in homeless response, whether that be shelter, but in all the work that we do, prevention is the most cost-effective option, and certainly the least traumatic option, quite frankly, for households who are experiencing housing instability. We also have case management for people who are outdoors, who are living outdoors, unsheltered. And we have done that work for the past several years. Getting outreach case management was critical for us as an organization about 5 years or so ago, knowing that, you know, we don't just want to serve the homeless population that knows to come to our front doors, right? That our responsibility in partnership with all of you all and the city of Milford is to be where they are and to help them find stability from that point. So we had 267 individuals served in our outreach program over the course of last year. That could be one touch, right? Somebody kind of showed up, maybe needed some support getting to a family or friend's house somewhere else, and we were able to help with transport to there, or it could be long-term case management where somebody was permanently housed from that scenario. We also have our 2 emergency shelter programs. One is our year-round emergency shelter program. I mentioned this earlier. That's 12. We have 12 male beds, 5 female beds, and 6 family units. The wait list to get into the year-round shelter program, if you are individual male, is nearly 4 months at this point, because of the complexities of cases, the volume of people who are looking to access services, and there's a number of things there, but we're constantly trying to reduce length of stay in emergency shelter while increasing increasing permanent exits. We've also kind of crossed over and started doing permanent housing work across all of our programs. So in our outreach program, the one I just mentioned, 93% of the people that come through that program, that 260 something number that I mentioned, 93% of them found permanent housing on the other side of our intervention. We have reduced length of stays in shelter by over 100 days over the past year and a half. That's a continuous effort, getting really creative around what options are available to folks. So now our length of stay is about 80 days. The drive is always to be as quick as possible, right? But we want to make sure that when folks are moving through us, that they are permanently stable on the other side of it. So we served 61 individuals in that program last year and 19 families. with an average of about 85% of folks moving to permanent housing on the other side of that emergency shelter program. There are things that don't count in that number. For example, if somebody needs like long-term psychiatric support and we were referring them and getting them inpatient somewhere, that wouldn't be considered a permanent housing exit on our books, but obviously that's where the person needed to be. And our No Free Shelter program, you know, this has been, and I spoke a little bit about it earlier, this has really been such a critical program for the community when you are responding to large volumes of unsheltered homelessness. You want to make sure that you have the resources to be able to stabilize this population. Where are folks utilizing the bathroom? Where are they getting connected to Wi-Fi and phone access? Where are they getting food? Where are they getting a shower, right? Showers are so critical for ongoing medical care. We want people to be healthy and well so they can engage in the case management that they need for permanent housing. But it's really hard to do that when you're managing kind of in survival mode of a lot of other immediate things. So our No Free Shelter program, as I mentioned, has seen a significant increase. Last season, we were in kind of the low 30s of capacity of kind of average nightly averages. This year, we're at about 43 to 45 guests per night in that program. Really, I mean, all of this is making sense, right? As we connect to the surveys that were conducted during the PIC count, we are seeing those numbers reflected in both increases in our outreach numbers and increases in our No Free Shelter program. Lastly, we is our permanent supportive housing program. So that small and mighty, we have 5 units called Liberty Points downtown. It's I think the community's best kept secret. We have 100% affordable units downtown that no one knows and cares about, and that's how we like it, and that's how everybody likes it. So, but wildly successful. You know, the point of this is long-term financial assistance and site-based case management. So a case manager is on site there. And that's for folks with long histories of homelessness and chronic illness. You know, we serve a very, very large continuum of people experiencing homelessness, meaning, you know, we have a percentage of folks that are incredibly sick and disabled. That's about 20% of our population. The rest are folks that would be walking up and down the streets, and honestly, you probably wouldn't know the difference, right? They check you out at the grocery store. They're the para in your kid's classroom. But those interventions like permanent supportive housing are really, really specific to folks who need a high level of care, and that the work for housing stability for them is really lifelong when it comes to us. Before I wrap up, I just want to highlight two initiatives that are one is newer to us, and that is our Youth United effort. We have a youth action network of high school students that are focused on thinking about how homelessness impacts their lives and the lives of their friends. That was something that really arose out of a few focus groups that we did several years ago, where high school students were experiencing housing instability and homelessness with their families, and really didn't know where to go or where to talk about it, and that the student was really the first person to disclose the instability, and the friends of students were wanting to support. And so that's been a wonderful effort. It's been a nice collaboration with the schools. You know, it is very much like learning about these issues and like, how does homelessness happen, right? You know, and all these questions that we probably all have, and being able to think through it together, but then getting involved in service projects that help to support themselves and their peers who might be experiencing homelessness while not like disclosing exactly, you know, who those folks are, et cetera. The second thing that I want to mention, and I think is really critical for times like this, you know, we have federal uncertainty, we have, you know, kind of state tensions around the budget going on at state level. The vast majority of funds that come from state contracts that we receive are actually federally funded, kind of rooted in the federal dollars. So we have lots to look out for there. But over the past several years, we've made a very conscious effort as an organization to engage the communities around Milford. We know that Milford, in addition to our partners in New Haven, but New Haven is kind of its own beast. We know that Milford is the light when it comes to how communities should be standing up and solving for homelessness in their communities, and that's everything from the work of the Bethel Center and our best practices, the coordination with folks at the library and the PD and all of the other community partners, the volunteerism that happens here. We have a staff of about 25 individuals, but we have over 300 volunteers a month with us. So it's just an all hands on deck effort. But what we have established is several I can't say this word as like a plural task force. But in several parts of the region. So we have a Shoreline Homeless Task Force, a Valley Homeless Task Force, a Stratford Homeless Task Force, and then the kind of OG task force in Milford. And the goal around these convenings, we meet once a month. The goal around these convenings is to stand up resources in other communities. When people do not have the resources locally, they do go to where they can get resources. That's only natural. We would all do that if we were in that position. But they don't want to leave their communities, and we don't want them to. Once they're gone, it's so hard to get them back where they are doctor's offices, et cetera, et cetera. So have made some really great progress. We've got some interest in standing up overflow programs, shelter programs along the shoreline and in Stratford. Adding some funding to budget line items in the near future that respond to diversion and things like that. So we've seen some really great progress, and I just wanted to share that with you all because honestly, it's been a goal of mine to get that done and to stand those up. And the pandemic, just kind of put all that aside for the moment. And so we've been at this for a couple of years now. So I know I've said a lot. I'll take a beat. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
Well, thank you, Jen. Thank you for all that you do. I'm always intrigued by listening to the stats and all the different lives that Bethel touches on a day-to-day basis. So thank you. Thank you. Anyone on the committee have any questions for Jen this evening?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Jen, thank you for all of that. Very alarming state and local statistics related to the increase in the unhoused. I'm alarmed by that. I was not aware of that at all. Can I ask, does Bethel turn people away?
So the short answer to that is no, because we don't want anybody walking away without a next step. And so I would not call that turning away. However, what the process looks like, there is an intake process at the front door of all of our programs, and it's pretty standardized across all of the programs. And it really has to do with let's learn about you. How did this happen? Who are you? Who's your people? What were the circumstances that got you here? And of course it's much more clinical than this, but, and really trying to identify kind of what are the immediate next steps or the long-term kind of resource potential needs of that. The kind of first page of that intake form is really identifying, are we the appropriate provider for you? If you are...
Actually, if I may pause you for one quick second, I should have added a couple of words to my question. Do we turn people away for reasons of capacity? Or does Bethel, I should say, turn away?
I appreciate that. No, not at this time. We make very conscious efforts to make sure, particularly during cold weather, that we are serving our community. We take that seriously. I will say that is with an enormous effort by our churches and volunteers across the city who lean in and say, if you have capacity issues, help us alleviate them. So You know, we would never be able to afford the amount of support that is provided through in-kind donations and volunteer time. So the answer would be yes, if not for that level of support. We do have wait lists though, and so some people might call that turning away. You know, the wait list for getting an outreach case manager is over a month. And you heard me say that the shelter statistics, I mean, folks can walk into our no freeze program, which is why we really try not to turn anybody away from that program. Because we know that it's their final option. And many of them, the vast majority, are just waiting for the next step. I want an outreach worker, but you know, I'm on the wait list for one. I want an emergency shelter bed so I can have, you know, more stability on the day-to-day so I can start working on other things, but I'm on the wait list for that, you know? So I wouldn't call it turning away either. However, it's a major issue, and we're often you know, working with providers around us to say, you know, if there's a case manager with a slot on their caseload and it makes sense to pair them with this person, like, let's just get them somebody who can work with them every day toward stability.
So when you're thinking of your capacity, you're thinking of the capacity of all of your partner organizations as well.
Yes, we think very much in systems, very much in systems. So really trying to figure out how do we create more out of the same. You know, the long-term plan around that is our new operations site, where we can kind of bring all of this both physically and operationally into one place, and have the space needed to do the work that we do. So the longer term plan is we're solving for that, if you will, around how do we better manage wait lists and things like that. But yes, very much relying on other community partners in other communities, similar to what they do for us when needed.
Recognizing that your answer to this would necessarily be imprecise, where are we with regard to your network capacity? Where are we to that capacity? How strained is our support system for the unhoused?
Yeah, great question. Extremely strained. You know, we've talked about a housing crisis. We've talked about a homelessness crisis. You know, we have folks dying more frequently than we ever had before. I've been doing this work for 20 years. I've been at Bethel for 11. I have never been to so many funerals, and that's the real cost of not having enough resources to support very vulnerable people. The people experiencing homelessness are people who are falling out of our housing market, and there's lots of reasons for that, but it comes down to you know, folks being extremely vulnerable in many ways. Our leading population right now are folks over the age of 65. So it's not just, you know, psychiatric issues, it's also physical ailments. So, you know, to answer your question, significantly, we have a serious ask to the state this year. And when I say we, it's the statewide homeless response system for nearly $130 million to say, here's where the need is, and here's where the resources are. And we're going to keep telling you what we need, and it's your decision on how much of that you are able to provide. But we're going to be very clear: if we're not getting this, then people are going underserved or unserved. So pretty unapologetic about that. You know, we're not creating homelessness. We're here trying to solve for kind of the emergency that it is today.
When people, the implication of what you just said is that people are dying from being unhoused in Milford. How many people? And what are the reasons? Is it exposure, hunger?
Yeah, that's a great question. So over the past year, I can say, not safely, because I don't know every single thing, right? But we've lost 3 folks in Milford over the past year. We lost a young man who it was what I think we try to gently call a death of despair. But he was a youth in our system and really trying to overcome the challenges of being housing unstable with lots of other health issues and complications. We lost his name is public, Joe Kane, in the Lowe's encampment fire. Those are circumstances. A person who is homeless said to me, I think it was yesterday or the day before, I feel like I'm told I have choices, but I don't have many options. The person that the folks who are living in an encampment like the Lowe's encampment, long established encampment, they in their minds ran out of other options a long time ago. It's our work to try to rebuild trust with them. And we reduced capacity in that encampment significantly. That encampment used to be over 10 people. There were 3 folks there the day of the fire, like still in residence there. So it's never too late for people, but the longer folks are kind of falling through gaps of the system, the longer it takes to build the relationships to get them through. And then we did lose somebody recently who was living in their vehicle. We can do our best to respond to things like exposure concerns. That's why we've increased no freeze capacities in the way that we have. But there are lots of other complications, related to homelessness. Just the inability to meet your basic needs, causes kind of a snowballing effect. So in Milford, knock on wood, we have not lost somebody to exposure this season. It's always the worst day when you lose a member of your community, but that's my worst fear because we've had such a terrible winter. So there's lots of stories. A couple quick facts there. You should know folks experiencing homelessness are considered geriatric nearly 15 years before we are. The impact of homelessness, the impact of being unhoused and not being able to meet your basic needs causes geriatric symptoms much early on. So just our folks are frail and vulnerable earlier. I did have something else there, but I forgot it. Sorry.
It's okay. You've already provided tremendous information. Thank you. Thank you for everything you do. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all. It is a privilege to work in this community. It is unlike any other community in the state. Other communities will tell me that. I know, and I'm like, I know. So we do it together.
Thank you, Jen. Nice to meet you.
You as well.
All right, thanks for the questions, Damon. Anyone else have any questions for Jen before we let her go? All right, I don't know that we can thank you enough for all that you do for the community, and thank you for your time this evening. Good luck the next several days and the rest of winter here. It's been a tough one for sure, but thank you. All right, I'm going to go back off video because I think my internet's continuing to be a little unstable. Can I hear a motion to recess?
Actually, Mr. Chair.
Tomorrow? Yes, go ahead.
Before we adjourn, I just want, if I may, I'd just like to make a correction to a data point I introduced at the last budget hearing.
Go ahead. Yep.
So at the last budget hearing during Dr. Kataya's presentation, I referenced a data point from the K through 12 shooting database. And I referenced it as being of all school shootings across the country, 2% were in elementary schools. That was an incorrect number. The correct number is 20%. The reason for the discrepancy is in the way that the data was laid out in the database. They separated K through 8 schools from elementary schools, which are technically considered K through 6. I was looking at the K through 8 data, and I just want to make sure the board has the accurate information on that point.
Well, thank you, David, for clarifying that. I'm sure the meeting minutes will reflect that update. And thank you for your care and concern towards that, because many people would have walked right past it. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So can I hear a motion to go back into recess until tomorrow at about 5:30?
I was on mute. I'll make a motion to recess until tomorrow evening at 5:30 p.m. via Zoom.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Anyone opposed? I don't think so.
Stay longer. Stay longer.
Very good. Well, we'll see everybody tomorrow evening and continue to be safe. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Good night, guys. See you tomorrow.